counter, which means that people would be more divided in a world of the affirmative if we are going to win a link argument. They conceded the we're going to go for the egalitarian argument that the way the affirmative looks at development, it assumes that they can just do a one-time-fits-all band-aid approach to solve the problem, but that's a terrible approach. It treats every country as equal and assumes that they're all going to work together, but no, Europe has routinely subjugated African nations and viewed them as inferior whenever they've carried out development assistance in the past, which is terrible, and the affirmative is no different. It literally just an excuse to promote diversity or multiculturalism, which is literally the biggest sham created by Western nations to go and justify their policies. All our evidence indicates that when development assistance organizations have done this in the past, before they caused massive violence, these examples were given the Dubkin 12 evidence, which indicates that the world may consider did terrible things to Mali, and devastated their communities and led to more poverty and divisiveness in their society, which means that there's definitely a link to the critique the alternative, which is 100% of the obvious because it deconstructs those relations with all for an in-depth analysis on them, which would mean that we have a better understanding of why problems like that exist in the first place. They only make a few no-link arguments. They assume that you occur in the real world. We already answered this on the other flow with the turns on case agreements. Then you say Buddhism isn't imperialist. It's a question of how you approach things like Buddhism and reaffirm that we are winning, that your strategy of development assistance is definitely a bad thing, which would mean that it's terrible. You also say the only thing that matters is this round. Well, guess what? The thing you have justified in this round, like development assistance, is neo-colonial as heck and leads to more divisions and causes more harm under their own framework. It is a very clear negative ballot here. They have mishandled tons of arguments and conceded that they are racist. And also, you should definitely just not vote for the one-hour argument. The theory shell is ridiculous. We're winning clear responses to it, and give us new arguments.
So I have 45 seconds to argue. What was your argument on interconnectedness, in your counterinterp?
Oh, the argument was that you could justify something like interconnectedness, which would literally just be other nations interacting with other nations, and prove that you would meet your own framework.
But how does that apply to your counterinterp?
Because it means that you can choose a self-serving framework that would not have good NC offense. Our argument is that it's an empirical example of that. Oh wait, what's the order?
So the order is just going to be underview.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's going to be the AC shell.
Okay.
Okay, are you ready? Yeah, everyone's ready, right? Sorry. Okay. My opponent makes a big mistake and concedes the argument that fairness comes first, and that A, it's a gateway issue, can't evaluate substance if it's unfair, and evaluation has been skewed, and 2, that it's getting inclusivity because bronze are fair, then people leave the activity. So if I win the fact that if I win theory, then that means that I win the round. Also, you can extend. He also concedes that I get 1 higher theory, and that the theory is dropped to the waiter, so you can extend that across the flow. So let's go into the theory show. So on his arguments about why he should get new response into an R, he says that I could just blow up something that is three sentences, and that's completely unfair because my shells are super short. However, my shell in the AC is literally longer than some of my offensive arguments in my case. I have arguments in my third analytic is way shorter than my first underview argument that it's actually justifying how it should be. Also, you can cross-play the argument about how that goes completely conceded about how I need these shorter arguments to actually compensate for the structural abuse that the YAF has. The fact that I can't up layer, the fact that I can't win all layers means that I can't actually I can't respond to these arguments. He said that I have things like 1 hour theory. However, if he reads a ton of arguments and he weighs that if he reads a K and he reads a response to the YAF, then there's no way I can cover the K and theory and cover all layers and actually know that I have a route to win. He could just win off a wing. So you can cross-play the argument that the fact that afflex means that he cannot get these neutron R responses even if they are short. It's something I need to compensate for these structural abuse. Then also he also says to get better time investment. However, these are just new arguments. These are just new arguments in the tuner about why he should get new tuner responses. So don't evaluate these. So onto the flow. So this means that you can evaluate any of his arguments against a counter interpretation because you can evaluate any of his arguments of counter interpretation because there you are arguments in the Tuner are, there are two arguments in the Tuner are. You could extend the interpretation that the affirms concede the affirm if it's structurally useful. He just says that he just also says I need that he didn't read a text, but I say he needs a set. I literally just said must concede the affirm, and I said that reading a different role of the ballot, whether that be, I never specified whether that's in a text, whether that's implicit. He in cross-text himself said that he has a different role of the ballot of like deconstructing colonialism. You can like fast forward the video and see like when he says that in cross-text. His I need doesn't work. Also, on the idea, like even if you buy his argument about how this is hyper-specific, he could have asked me like what offense would have linked under it. That would have solved for this. Also, like he had the afflict before the round, he could have understood what worked with interconnectedness. It's a pretty holistic idea. There's a lot of things that negate there. So these arguments don't apply. You can extend, so on the substance of Stratsky argument, none of his arguments against this actually apply because they go conceded, and I've proven why that doesn't work. So extend substance and Stratsky versus flow. Also, my opponent just says that, sorry, lots of papers. My opponent just says that the times he solves for this, again, he makes the times he's solving about how I should just get better time investment. However, I've been doing drills as much as I can just because I can't actually get to the level where I can solve for this structural abuse doesn't mean I can do anything. Also, you can extend the argument that was conceded about how known abuse outweighs all other types of abuse. Even if he has offense on my shell, there's no way that actually matters because the abuse that comes from violating the shell that he knew about it outweighs all other abuse.
Good round.
Person who's not advancing to the next round.
Okay.
I'll just get to you. Good person.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There wasn't a 2 in our doc, was there?
No, there was not a 2 in our doc.
He just emailed in the email chain saying someone respond to this right when the decision is ready. So I'm sending his update.
He just walks out of the group. He did that.
What's it?
Unfinished loss.
What?
2-1.
No,
To
I
who?
was lost.
No.
Steve? Unfinished loss? Steve? If that wasn't the bracket, that would lead up to me.
Oh, that's good.
So not. I should hate Connell or someone.
Are they also in by?
Connell was a high for you. Lucas won.
Seriously?
Oh, wait, Lucas won in dubs? Or Lucas won in triples? Lucas won in trips. Oh.
Great.
Wait, was he on Aphrodite?
I don't know. Neg, I think.
Who do you hit?
I don't know. I'm gonna tap him.
That's all we're running.
Do you see him out there?
No, I was just checking to see the room number.
Oh, Tom sat in Lucas's round.
Seriously? Nice.
It's against Lucas. It's 2-1.
Oh, thank you.
Why aren't they all
If you could please submit your ballot sometime soon, that would be great.
I think
They're
we
all
all
submitted.
submitted, we're just
Have
waiting
you?
for someone
Okay.
to come back.
Thank you.
They hold the sign up in the window.
Cowboy.
Guys, what are you looking at? I wanna see
Well, I
that.
like Chris anyway, just saying it's fine.
That's the same thing.
That's great.
Can I announce it?
Congratulations to both debaters for reaching the triple octafinals of the Apple Valley Invitational. The decision is a 2-1 for the negative from Harvard-Westlake.
Cool. Hi, Sat. I thought this was a really easy app ballot. So I think the biggest problem is that there's not a direct answer to this framework theory argument in the NC at all. The answer coming out of the NC is that I get new NR responses to 1AR new implications of theory arguments. However, I don't think, and I think she's correct in saying this is not a new 1AR implication of theory argument whatsoever. This is a pretty clear interp coming out of the first point of the underview that the neg must concede to the app framework if it's structurally reciprocal. I think that then the problem becomes like, do either of the three justifications you give for like I get new responses to 1AR implications, theory arguments, do those matter? And generally, I think the answer is no to all three of those standards. The first of which being that you don't know the you don't know like the link or impact to the theory arguments coming beforehand. The link is pretty clearly laid out in the second, or in the like strategy subpoint. It's like link is reading to clarify any new standard or roll ballot contradicts this point. The impacts are both the substance and strategy standards that are both pretty clearly laid out. And then the other 2 points are letting the app win on Blippi 1AR cross applications, which this is not a cross application, this is a direct application to theory sharpening right out of the underview, and saying it kills clash because they can end the debate. Missed one sentence. This is not like a missed one sentence split the argument. It is the interpretation with 2 pretty fleshed out, well-warranted subpoints. I think the one area in which you make like a pretty substantive dent, perhaps, in these arguments is on the we meet. I think the we meet that you give is probably true based on we didn't read a roll of ballot text. We're not going for the roll of ballot. You don't say what speech we need to concede the framework in. However, when I believe that like you don't get this new NR response based off of my belief from beforehand that like this is not a new application of a spike coming out of the 1AR based on how I think her explanation of the responses to your NR 3 standards to say why and or why you should get those new responses, and her saying both in the 1A and 2AR that like no, my theory shell here pretty clearly meets these standards, that I don't give you those new we meet arguments or your counter interp in the NR.
Okay, what would do you think there was a winning 2NR then?
I think that you need to spend, I think the winning 2NR goes all in on we meet. Because, or I think the 2NR does 2 things with the we meet. One, goes all in on it and doesn't try to win the counter interpretation or these other like strats to inevitable or like just get better arguments. But I think that most of the stuff on the we meet needs to be like, I recognize this is new, this is why I still get it.
Okay.
You're saying like theory arguments for why it's not new?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
So I think that's mostly right. This is a theory shell in the AF. I don't think there's a real excuse for not answering it, and like that was a huge blunder. But as it is, the AF does not have any reason why new responses would be bad. And so I think from a pure offense-defense perspective, there's some risk that I should grant new 2NR responses to spikes because the AF can blow up these spikes. We don't know how they'll be applied, kind of standard argument. All of the AF's responses here are defensive. Like, no, it was really clear, I swear. And it's like, yeah, it was really clear, but that's not enough to persuade me that it would be bad to allow new 2NR responses. So I think that the neg does, or the neg does get new responses. I think the second we meet argument is dropped, and I also think that the neg is ahead on the standards level. So I think there's a topic debate versus philosophy debate that's kind of a wash. But ultimately the neg has offense on ground that's not really answered, ground and strat skew. The AF just says there are tons of turns you can make to my AF about interconnectedness, but doesn't explain what any of those turns would be. I would like some explanation or examples of what ground there is to debate this AF. So I think ground and strat skew probably outweigh the extended offense on uplayering and time skew, because there's good defense on time skew too. That's just like this is a substantive skill problem, get more efficient, and then you're like, I'm trying, and I'm like, well, yeah, but that doesn't really respond to the defense that you could in theory get more efficient and it would solve the underlying time skew. I think that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah, I value the debate pretty similarly, honestly. So like, I obviously look to this like do you get new 2NR responses first? And I agree with Bob when I think that both the 1AR and the 2AR are couched like very, very defensively. The only source of offense like I can see you trying to get on is this like is the first argument extended on the split of the 2AR, which is just like these like underview spikes are key to check back like structural abuse because you can't cover all different layers of the flow. Now the problem with that is that's like one of only three arguments extended to 2AR, and you've conceded the 2NR response that indicates like the reason why it makes us like get better at time management get better at time management like argument is that it just proves reasons as to why you don't like that having a bunch of like spikes at the bottom of your 1AC isn't necessarily key to check back. Like one, it proves that there isn't nothing like inherent about the round that creates abuse. Or two, there's no reason why blips are key to check back this offense. And I think like your work on this in the 2AR is just amounts to just an extension of this argument. It's not really responding to like this pretty core component of your strategy. And then your other two responses are just like, these are new, don't respond to them, which I think is very circular because if he wins the argument that he gets new 2NR responses, then you can't dismiss the 2NR, right? Then on the theory debate, given that for me, I just voted like on the theory debate the easiest way I could. Like the only response to the counter interpretation, other than weighing, was just like, don't evaluate it. It's new in the 2NR. But if I feel like he gets sufficient responses to theory in the 1AR and in the 2NR, then I just feel like all of the weighing that he does, specifically on the Turin standard, saying that like AFC, since the affirmative has like limitless frameworks that they can run, and the negative is a reactive strategy, since that like your interpretation of debate skews has much more of a harm on the negative than it does on the affirmative, is probably reasons to why I can also vote negative on the theory debate. Which means when I go to substance, then the 2NR does like a pretty good job extending like the critique offense. Like I think the links and the analysis makes decent sense. Like in the affirmative is like this principle of interconnectedness is like an erasure of like the material oppression or like subjugation that like minorities or specifically African people would face. And given that the 2AR goes all in on theory, I think if I fall to substance, then I have no choice but to make.
I have two other quick things actually. One, I think the proper 2NR for you is if you believe that you have lost AFC is like all in on the discourse first stuff.
Oh, right.
And like the 1AR is not great on the K, so I think I don't know, maybe like 2 minutes of the 2NR and you can still do a bunch of good work on theory. And then second, I think even if you should not get new responses in the 2NR, you definitely should get the we meets because they are responses to the violations in the 1AR, right? There's no violation in the F. You should say that, and I think that's the proper analysis. Maybe if the violation's so clear in the F, you have to respond in the NC, but I think it's a new argument in the 1AR because it's responding to your reading a framework. So you should get to respond and say, well, it's not a framework, or I am conceding it, as it were.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Thank
Yeah.
you for judging. Good round.